Hello and welcome to Providence's educational series called We Act Go Carbon Negative. Just to let you know, this video is for informational purposes only, as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or provider with any questions. Thank you so much. My name is Beth Schenk, and I'm the Executive Director of Environmental Stewardship for Providence, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by three colleagues and friends. Lori Kelly, who is the Senior Vice President and Chief Philanthropy Officer for Providence, Britton Gray, Executive Director of Global and Domestic Immersion Programs for Providence, and Al Dunn Jr., Regional Linen Manager, particularly in Eastern Washington area, part of Providence. So I'm really thrilled to have you all. Welcome to this particularly festive demonstration. Educational
Looking
session.
good.
And today we're going to talk about how might we intersect the holidays, which can be a time of immense consumption, purchase, waste, food. How can we think about that through the lens of environmental stewardship, and what would that mean for us personally, for us perhaps a little bit in our professional lives, and to give ideas for others? So I'm pleased to explore this with you all. And I'm going to just start with a little bit of background. So you may find this surprising, but Americans throw away 25% more trash between Thanksgiving and New Year's than at any other time of the year. You're probably not surprised by that because we know what happens in our houses with the food and the gifts and the lights, etc. And that amounts to more than 25 million tons of garbage in the U.S. alone. So we are going to take that as a little bit of background, not that we'll only focus on waste, but to explore some ideas with each of you. So to get us started, I would hope that I could ask you to each just introduce yourself, talk about your role at Providence, and a little bit about why you care so much about this topic, our global environment broadly, and our carbon negative commitment at Providence. Al, let's start with you.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today's discussion. I'm Al Dunn. I'm the Regional Linen Manager here in the great city of Spokane. And I've always had a passion for the earth. My grandfather, who was a World War II veteran, after they call the World War II generation the greatest generation. And one of the things he taught me and my sisters and all of my cousins was to have an appreciation for country and also have an appreciation for the environment. And so I've always had kind of a green thumb, if you will. And so one of the things that I truly believe in some of my conversations with Beth is it is our opportunity and it also our responsibility to leave this world in a better place for our children, for generations to come. And I think it's so important for us to work together collectively to take care of our trees, take care of the air, take care of the water, all these natural resources that have been there for millions of years and have gone through the ice age and things of that nature. Is we have a responsibility and a role to take care of that. So that's my passion, and I'm glad to be on this panel to discuss things like that with everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Al. Glad you're on the team. Britton, how about you?
Yes, thank you so much, Beth. It's great to be here. And within my role as the Executive Director of our Global and Domestic Engagement work at Providence, I oversee our partnerships in Guatemala, Mexico, Malawi, Uganda, and Nigeria, as well as our system-level volunteer programming in the US. And something that has really brought home to me the importance of our global environment is the impact of climate change that we see in places where we partner around the world. So in Guatemala, for example, many of the families we serve are subsistence farmers, and an increase in hurricanes and tropical storms has put their lives on the brink within a precarious time. I think climate change is a major catalyst for human migration from Guatemala as well as other locations. And I see climate justice as really essential for protecting individuals' homes, cultures, and livelihoods.
Thank you, Britton. Yeah, so important to remember the global connections. And we're really proud to have the global program that we have in Providence that's helping not only in our backyards, but really around the world. So thank you. Lori.
Hi, I'm Lori Kelly, and I lead the System Office of Philanthropy for Providence. We have over 40 foundations ranging from all the way up in Alaska, down to California, over to Texas. And all of them are very involved in this kind of work as well, because we know that healthcare produces about 8 or 9% of the carbon emissions here in the United States, which is very scary to think about. And we've been really working on and I know Beth has really been leading a lot of those efforts, but how can we minimize those? And our caregivers really care about this as well. It's not just that we're doing it for the good of the planet, but it's really important to the people that work at Providence, I think. And I think for me personally, I think as we've gotten older and we've seen the changes that are happening to the climate and the beautiful parts of the country that we live in here on the West Coast, it's just so important that we preserve what the good parts of what's going on in the environment for the next generation. And over the last couple of years, I became a grandmother, and it brings it home even that much further, how much it's changed in my lifetime and now just for my grandkids. So really important. And I think also we can save money by doing better as well. And I think that's really important in American healthcare today. We're always trying to figure out ways to be much more efficient.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And Laura, your work is so important because you're building the foundation and the seeds for the future, both near-term and long-term future. So thank you so much for your work with all of our philanthropy.
It's a privilege. Thank you so much.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask you another question. I'm going to go in reverse order. So we'll start with you, Lori. Okay. So when you think about having an environmentally friendly holiday celebration, and that's a big order. We know that's a big order. So we may not get all the way to environmentally perfect, but when you think about going in that direction, including greener giving, what are some ideas that come to mind for you?
Yeah, I think, instead of stuff, thinking about giving things that can be, things like food items, enjoyment, movies, tickets, theater, that kind of thing, experiences that people, that's the word I was looking for, experiences that people can have. Also, I'm in philanthropy, so I really like to make gifts in honor of people or in memory of folks. And if you go to our website, you can give to any one of the Providence Foundations and in honor of someone or in memory of someone who have done something. And I think that really, I know we've got some gifts here at my house when we had experienced a death in our family, and it really meant a lot that people would reach out to organizations that we really felt close to make a gift in honor. So I think that's something that you can do, especially for that person that doesn't need any more stuff and that really hard to buy for a person. Think about what organizations does that person really believe in? What kind of causes do they believe in? And go to those websites and give in their honor or give in their memory. So I think that's one way to do it. I also think just kind of really being more conscious of what you're wrapping. Does it need to be wrapped? Can it have a bow? And also what you're giving, and just making sure. I think when we all look back and we say, what gifts do we really remember getting? It's probably a small number, but what experiences, what times with friends and family, what meaningful experiences that we've had maybe in doing some volunteer work. And I know Britton's going to talk about that. So that's really what the season's all about. So think about it from that perspective.
Yeah, that's a great point about trying to remember your favorite gift. And there may have been some from childhood or from a special sweetheart or partner. But you're right. It's the experiences. It's the times with family and around the dinner table or the tree. Thanks, Lori.
Thank you.
Britton, what would you say?
Well, I think one of the things that the pandemic has reaffirmed for all of us is the value of community and really to not take one another for granted. So this holiday season, I think we do have an amazing opportunity to recognize that gift of being alive and to give with our hearts and hands through thoughtful service with one another. And one example of that would be through community volunteerism. Can we volunteer together as a family and make service a part of our holiday tradition together? Can we leverage that opportunity to talk about that experience, to connect us more closely with one another, to our neighbor, or to community need, and how we're a part of that community together and that community response? I also think there are a lot of simple but meaningful twists we can apply to holiday celebrations. For example, if you're hosting a holiday party, invite your friends instead of buying you a gift and spending that money and purchasing something material. Instead, invite them to bring canned goods already in their pantries so that together you can make a holiday donation to the local food bank and celebrate that as a part of your time of coming together for your celebration. At the individual level, I think there are also things we can do for those in our lives who don't have material needs. We can move from a place of excess gift giving to really meaningful generosity that comes from giving our time on that one-on-one level as well. And what's on my mind this holiday season is really, how do we serve one another and how do we give gifts of appreciation? And one of the simplest, but I think profound gifts that comes to mind for me is straight from the elementary school playbook of making a coupon book for your loved one with activities that they can cash in on throughout the year. For example, a coupon for a candlelit homemade meal, for babysitting, for a weekend hike, for giving a massage. These are activities that can connect us throughout the year and are based on giving a gift of time and service. And lastly, on the appreciation front, I think there are also some really unique digital platforms and organizations out there that allow you to do a digital message board for a loved one where a group of people can all write individual notes. Or another option would be, there are some groups where you can dive into their site and write notes that will be delivered over the course of a week. So there are great ideas, I think, for thinking about how we can communicate care and appreciation, which is free, lasting, and deeply meaningful.
Breton, those are great ideas. I think you've helped me this season. I remember once I took on a mission it was for a significant decadal birthday for some of my good friends. So I wrote everyone a heartfelt letter. And it took a long time. I had to think it through. I had to plan it. I had to be careful that it was, just very, very loving and supportive. And I've been told how important that was. And that's one in a lifetime. I mean, we could do this more often. Thank you so much. Those are great ideas. Al, what would you say?
We have so many great ideas. But one of the things that my wife and I decided to do this year was the gift of giving. And so my daughter and my wife and I, we decided to bake some cookies for our neighbors. Well, my daughter very seldom sees dad in the kitchen, usually because I'm banned from it. But she was surprised that I knew how to bake cookies and throwing the egg and the flour and everything like that. And so after we made the cookies, we made a big batch of sugar cookies. We put them in containers, and then we started to deliver them throughout the neighborhood. Now, typically in the past, I would have gotten a truck and we would have drove to the houses and done it. But this year we decided we are going to be environmentally conscious and we're not going to get in the vehicle. And I think everybody has a few COVID pounds they could stand to lose. So we decided to walk around the neighborhood and deliver the cookies. And it was a great experience. And I really got enjoyment from it. And I don't know, I'm probably going to date myself, but I don't know if everybody remembers or anyone on the call that's old enough to remember in 1986, Hands Across America. Where everybody got together, held hands across in the larger cities. I was in Baltimore, Maryland at the time, and we binded together, and we were fighting against poverty and homelessness. And I remember that I was only in the 5th or 6th grade, and it just put a strong sense of community in my spirit, and that's something I'm trying to pass on to my daughter. And like I said earlier, I think passing something on to the next generation to make it a habit to where they just do it out of habit of taking care of community, I think that's a great thing to pass on. And also the last thing is recycling wrapping paper. My mom's used to do that all the time, and we've gotten away from that, me personally. But this year, all of the wrapping paper, we're strategically wrapping the gifts, but they're going to be all the all of the wrapping paper, is going to be recycled and reused next year. So that's another idea that people can do to be environmentally conscious.
Thanks, Al. Well, I sure wish I lived in your neighborhood.
I think the batch that I cooked, I don't think you would have liked them batch, but the batch my wife and my daughter made, you would have loved them.
That's great. One thing I appreciate about Providence is our habit of service. And so many of us in our departments or divisions or units commit to a shared service, whether it's volunteer time or it's donating for gifts for a family who needs them. And I love the way that sort of bleeds out into our personal lives. It certainly has for me, and it's a good anchor about reminding what's important at this time of the year. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a little bit more about an idea that speaks to you, and I'm going to start by throwing out an idea myself, which I think would be very, very difficult. It would be to have a zero waste holiday, even for just one day. But just think about that. If you're going to have a zero waste that would change everything you do. It would change what food you could buy, because it can't be, nothing could be thrown away. It would change the packaging of any gift that you had, would change the wrapping paper, of course, unless you could keep every shred. Um, and then a slightly easier version of that, you could say it would be a no landfill day. So you could recycle or reuse your paper. You could, use the turkey carcass for soup. So different ways of thinking about that. But when we start at that end, it kind of changes what you let yourself do in terms of the things in our life that eventually go to landfill. And I remind us all in Providence, we have a goal that by 2030, we'll only be sending half of our waste to landfill or incineration. Okay, so that's an idea, but give me some ideas, and let's start this time with Britton. What are some other ways that you think of to be environmentally sustainable? What's an idea that speaks to you?
As I think about environmental sustainability over the holiday, and what speaks to me, the first thing that really comes to mind is thinking local. How do we celebrate and rediscover what's right at our fingertips? I think there's always an urge to travel, and there can be a place for that, but what might be waiting to be discovered in our own neighborhood or just on the outskirts of our own city? So I think getting creative where we are often helps make any of our activities more environmentally friendly by reducing travel. And then I think focusing on experience and avoiding excess. So rather than going shopping together, which might inadvertently create a lot of expense, a lot of unneeded purchases, and weigh us down with some difficult to recycle packaging or bags, where can we have experiences together? And so I think that plays into your question of, can we go on a walk to the museum? Can we go to a local garden? I live in Portland, and I love the Landfill Chinese garden as well as the Japanese garden we have up on the hill. Those are experiences that are rich and vibrant and cultivate connection to nature and to one another. But even just taking a walk to a local favorite park and packing some hot chocolate from home, taking a chance to sit and have an intentional conversation or simply laugh together are the things that come to mind for me as we think about creating rich holiday experiences that are not only sustainable, but connect us further to the environment around us.
That's great. And also, one thing I got out of what you just said, which was lovely, is taking the time, because we're always so busy. I'm so busy, so to really take time with a friend or family and have an experience like that. Thanks, Britton. That's beautiful. Let's see. How about Lori?
Yeah, I think one thing I've been doing actually myself here, and I think it's been kind of lightening the load, is really looking for things that I'm not using anymore here at the house that are really nice, and trying to find people that need it that don't have enough. And I raised 3 girls, so we have a lot of really nice clothing that they are not using anymore. That's very nice. And so where can what women's shelters, what areas that are taking care of teenagers that are maybe on the streets and things like that, where can you spend some time really, and the nicer things too. You want people to get things that are they're excited about getting. So looking for other organizations that we can partner with that are also doing good works in the community, that are kind of lightening our load and while we're kind of getting ready for the holidays, and then giving to others in service as well. So I know we've always had a tradition too of doing a food kitchen, going and serving the homeless during the holiday season. And there's a lot of opportunities to do that in the cities that we are in at Providence. So again, like Britton was saying, another experience where you're noticing, the greatness of your life and how many blessings you have. And then you see people that really are not having enough. And so how can we make, lighten our own load by, giving back. And so I think that's something that we've been focusing on here in my family. And I'm encouraging everyone to do that. There's so many great organizations out there that need your help and support. And so I would just encourage you to look for those that really speak to you and make a difference, either through time served or through a donation.
That's great. Thanks, Lori. Yeah, the idea of giving stuff that you're not needing anymore, that you have duplicates of, et cetera, is a great idea. Because isn't it the case that stuff just accumulates? I mean, I really try to not buy things, and it just still accumulates. I think of ink pens. I think I have at least 1,000 ink pens, and I haven't bought an ink pen in decades. It just occurs. So anyway,
where
it's
did they
small.
come from? At one point, your house had nothing in it, and now,
exactly.
Yeah. Even I've been surprised since I have these grandkids. I've gotten leftover baby stuff from my own house, and I have more than enough. And there are so many people out there with not enough. And so I've been looking for organizations where it can be given right to the people that need it most. So
Yeah, great call. Thank you. Al, how about you?
Um, I'm going to continue with the theme of passing information down. The gift of knowledge
Oh,
to the younger generation. Recently, and back in August, we bought a new house and we moved up to northern Spokane, and with that, we're able to experience a lot more wildlife, deers and raccoons and other various animals coming through our backyard. And this has just opened my daughter's eyes to nature. And one of the things that, as we recycle and take things out to the bins, I told her one of the reasons why we're doing this is so that the deers will continue to have a place to live. And the animals that you see that you get excited about when you look out the window, because it's common for us to look out the window and see a family of deer just sitting in our front yard, which is awesome, especially from a city boy from Baltimore. But to teach that, to give my daughter the gift of knowledge of this is why we do this. This is why we recycle. This is why Daddy is so passionate about the environment, because we want, lack of a better term, Bambi to be able to have generations of Bambis down the line, and then they'll have a place to eat and sleep and just be able to walk through the woods without being bothered by pollution and things of that nature. So the gift of knowledge and information, I think, is something that would definitely help with that.
that's great, Al. And it's wonderful to be able to connect the dots between what you're seeing in your life and your own values, which I know will resonate with your family forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
hey Beth, can
Yeah.
I noticed that there was a comment in the chat of someone who is giving away plants as a gift, and which I think is just, and I see Britton's plant right behind her, which is like adding the color, and I was just going to say that last year I gave a lot of bird feeders and bird food, and especially this time of year. And a friend of mine yesterday brought me over a little light bulb that you put on the bottom of your hummingbird feeder, so it keeps the food warm in the wintertime. So
Wow.
anyway, so that's a cool thing too, and you're benefiting the nature around you and yourself too. So just gifts of nature, and that just from what he said, I kind of just wanted to riff on that.
That's great suggestion. Let me ask you a little bit, and I know we're already getting close on time, but let me ask you a little bit about your specific work. So, Lori, can you tell us about some specific funds that may be of interest for our participants? And I don't mean only Providence, but I know that's one.
Right. Well, I'm going to focus on Providence because we're in every city, up and down the West Coast, or in every state. And we have so much going on in the area of environmental stewardship, and we do have environmental stewardship funds. And so if you go to our website, it's on the bottom here, foundation@providence.org. You can click on all foundations and go to the foundation that is in your city or state, or give to the National Foundation. And I will just assure you that your money will be put to really good use in all of the work that Beth and her team are doing to really impact our environment in a very positive way. We've got a lot of programs, and they will only come to fruition faster and help more people if we're able to fund them. So, some of them we're all definitely self-funding here at Providence, but there's just a lot more ways to get things going, obviously with more resources. So we would really encourage you to check out our website and look at other things that really speak to you. And again, organizations, Nature Conservancy, Blanchet House Food Kitchens, there's all kinds of organizations that are doing a really good job serving the poor and vulnerable, really working with environmental sustainability in their practices. And so just think about giving to them as well.
Wonderful. My family, my adult family, as we've gotten older and everybody has so much stuff, everybody chooses a foundation or an organization to donate that someone else will donate to. And so, it's almost the same as just making the donation yourself. But one of the benefits of doing it that way is you learn about that organization and you learn about what your family member's interested in. So, Lori, I just decided I'm going to ask them to give to Providence Foundation this year for environmental stewardship. That's going to be my Christmas gift from my family. So thank you.
Fantastic. And we will send you a letter that that someone donated in your honor. So that's great.
Fabulous.
Yeah. Thanks.
Let's see, Britton, what would you say about specific volunteerism and community engagement opportunities? And you've talked about this a little bit, but what else would you like to say?
There are a lot of different opportunities across the holiday season, and some of them have been touched on by other speakers. But as we think about ways to give, housing and food-related nonprofits are often serving larger meals at the holidays, and there's often need for additional volunteer support. And so sign up with your friends or family, sign up early, be aware of COVID protocols that you should carry in mind as you move in that environment for the protection of recipients. And there are also organizations that deliver meals during the holidays. So if you don't want to be in a room with others, you could be a part of bringing those meals straight to someone, whether to their door or where they live in the community. I think another idea is really calling up your local long-term care facility and asking what would be meaningful for their residents. Can you make homemade cards as a family activity, write cards of holiday care and cheer for folks who are isolated and maybe alone during the holidays? This is something that we have really mobilized our caregivers within Providence around through a Messages of Hope campaign, but it's something that any of us can do within our home communities, a great way to come together around an activity of service and then be able to share that in a way that will brighten this holiday for others. I just want to add to some of the things that have been said around giving as well through our dollars, because sometimes we can't volunteer together. We may not live in the same city, but we want to honor our loved ones who live in other places, and volunteering in someone's name can be a fantastic gift. And also donating to the nonprofit that they care about. It sounds like this is what you do within your family, Beth, and I love it. I think sometimes we can make a donation on someone's behalf and maybe they will be excited by our generosity, but it may not land. But if we give to a cause that they really value, something they treasure, or an organization that they volunteer for, it can add additional meaning and really build the relationship and connection with one another as well.
That's great. And it really reinforces that habit, which is one to have for our whole lives and share with our family as you all are doing. Thanks, Brenton. That's beautiful. Al, what would you like to say about this topic, or more specifically about anything that's happening with Providence or elsewhere in Washington for the holidays?
Washington State, like many other states and cities, we're experiencing a homelessness problem, and stretches across the state from Seattle to Spokane down to the Tri-Cities, and so that is something that more awareness needs to be brought to that. Unfortunately, there are a lot of veterans that are homeless, and me being a 24-year Air Force vet, that's something that is close to my heart. But during this time of year, everybody watches their holiday movies, and one of the greatest movies of all time is It's a Wonderful Life. And the whole overview of that movie is how much one person touches so many other lives. And I think if we are going to combat homelessness, if we're going to strive to work together to make this environment better and sustainable, we have to work together. And it's an old saying, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And we have to be a chain across this nation and across the world to combat these things that we're passionate about. And so I just encourage everyone that is on this program that may listen. One person can and will make a difference. And if we would just have that thought through the holidays and going into 2022, that we can work together to change the effects of climate change or to combat homelessness, we can do it if we decide to work together, because no person is an island unto themselves. We all are on this earth for a specific reason. And I believe our Lord Jesus Christ has brought us all together to work together to make this place better, but we can only do it working together. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Nice, Al. And you have exemplified the We Act framework in a way. Now, those of you who have listened for a while know that We Act stands for waste, energy, water, agriculture, food, chemicals, and transportation. But what Al just said is that it's up to us, we who act together to make these changes. So that was a beautiful explanation. Thanks, Al. Okay, now we have like 1 minute. How does this always happen? So if any or all of you have something that you'd just like to say of how you're contributing or your division is contributing to our carbon negative goal by 2030, who'd like to speak up?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, real quick. Here in Eastern Washington, we are embarking upon an LED conservation conversion project. So our hospitals at Holy Family and Sacred Heart, we are changing out a lot of light bulbs, going with LED conversion, and it's been successful so far. So we're going to continue to embark upon that in 2022.
Super. Thanks. Britton.
As a department, some of our volunteer work is really designed around getting folks into the community to connect with them with how we care for the earth. And so some of the work that we're really excited about is engaging hearts and hands in environmental activities, like removing invasive species, planting trees, conducting cleanups. And we'll do that talking about our 2030 goal and this environmental framework. So that's work we're so excited to advance now and into the new year.
That's great. And you've been successful already in 2021 with our new platform. It's great work. Thank you, Britton. Lori, what would you add?
I would say volunteering, doing some of the work that Britton is doing as well. And we're cutting down on travel quite significantly. I mean, part of that is the pandemic, but part of that is just to be very cognizant of expense and also, carbon. So our teams used to travel quite a bit, and we've really cut back on that. And I think that we've shown that we can really work virtually. We do miss the in-person, but the benefits of it are time saved, money saved, and definitely carbon saved. So that's an area that we're really focusing on too.
Fabulous. Thanks so much. Yeah, it's just as I listen to you all, I can really feel the team. We are working on this together, and we are acting. So thank you all so much. This was great. I have new ideas even for this season. So wonderful.
Thank you, Beth. Great job. Yeah.
Thank you. So Britton Gray, Lori Kelly, and Al Dunn Jr., thank you so much. And thank you everyone out there for listening and sending in your question. To learn more about our initiatives, please check out providence.org and make sure you follow us on social media and share the word. And happy holidays to everyone. Safe and happy.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Thank you so much.